Hi everyone, thank you for joining me. I'm Myra Wilkinson. I'm the author of Start Each Day with a Smile, which is a 5-week personal journey for self-care, self-discovery, and personal growth. So today we are talking about self-worth and what does that mean? So the definition for self-worth, I'm going to read it because I don't want to mess it up, is the opinion you have about yourself and the value you place on yourself. So looking at self-worth, how does that relate to self-care, and how do we improve our self-worth so that we ourselves feel good? It's your opinion about yourself and how you value yourself and your time, your effort, the energy you put into something. That's what we're looking at. We're looking at what is your value, what is your worth, not in money, just overall, what is your value and what is your worth? So some of the stuff I wrote down because I wrote some notes to jot down to make sure that I hit the points that I want to. The question is, how much do you value yourself? A lot of times we don't value ourselves, and that plays into self-care because when we think about others and put others in front of us, we kind of lose our value and our self-worth, and it diminishes our opinion of what we should do for self-care. So how you feel about yourself and your self-value and your worth is important. How do you determine that? How you phrase that and how you act on that is very important as well. So let's talk a little bit more about how you treat yourself. The way you treat yourself shows how much you value yourself as well. And I'm not talking about buying yourself expensive things. I'm not talking about taking yourself on trips. I'm talking about how you truly treat yourself, how you actually view yourself and treat yourself when no one else is looking. How do you feel about yourself? How do you value yourself? Do you value your time? Do you value your own opinion? Do you allow other people's opinions and beliefs to determine how you think, the choices you make, and how you behave? Let's talk more about that, because a lot of us, we do have those issues, right? Say for instance, as a child growing up, you have those thoughts of, you know what, someone told you that you will not be anything. You would always be this person who would have a job that won't amount to anything, or you won't amount to anything. If you keep those negative cognitions going throughout your life, it impacts your self-worth. No matter what we say, you want to say, oh, nobody opinion matters, no one else matters besides me. Well, we want to live that life, but we really don't feel that deep inside. So when those opportunities come, sometimes we let them pass along because we don't believe in ourselves. We don't have any self-worth or value. Our self-worth and value has been determined from a comment that was made when we were 5, from a comment that we were made when we were 9, from a comment that was made when we were 15, from a mistake that we did when we were 17, 18, 25, however, whatever age it was, that people are judging you for, and you are still allowing those negative cognitions to stay there and determine who you are as a person and determine your own self-worth and value. So you have those negative cognitions going on over and over and over again in your head, and you're not taking yourself seriously. You're not valuing yourself, and you're not amounting to what you can be in life, and your life is not fulfilled. And then that also, again, that plays into your self-care piece, where if your self-worth is low, then you're not going to take care of yourself because you don't feel that you need to. You start to feel guilty for doing things that you deserve. You don't know what you deserve. And having a high level of self-worth and value allows you to know that you are a good person. No matter what you have done in your past, you are a good person and you deserve to have certain things. And that's what self-worth and self-value looks like. You deserve to have that respect. So no matter what your past is, you deserve to still have that respect no matter what you've done in the past. So we look at loving ourselves a little bit more, right? Yes, we make mistakes in our past, and yes, those mistakes cost a lot. Sometimes we have to start all over again because of those mistakes. Sometimes those mistakes make us hit rock bottom, and we have to start all over again. But loving yourself, that unconditional love, we want to say in our relationships with our kids, we have unconditional love for them. What about ourselves? If we love ourselves unconditionally, then our self-worth and value goes up tremendously. That is loving yourself without conditions. That is loving yourself through the hard times. That is loving yourself through your past mistakes and not feeling guilty about it. That is also forgiving yourself. Self-worth has a lot to do with forgiveness. No one is perfect. No one knows the playbook. We didn't get a playbook, right? No one gets a playbook and knows exactly what to do and what not to do. And we tend to hold ourselves to a higher standard when it's not necessary. There's no measuring stick of how worthy you are, or how, okay, this mistake cost this much, so I'm on this pole now because I made this mistake. Everyone makes mistakes. That does not mean that you're less valuable than you were before. What it means is that you need to learn from your mistakes. Show yourself love, grace, and compassion. If it was someone else who did those things or made those mistakes, we're always like, oh, it's okay. I still love you. I still care for you. You can make this right. What about that pep talk for yourself? Do you give yourself that pep talk? Do you tell yourself that I'm worthy, I am compassionate, I'm lovable? All those things that build your self-esteem. Do you tell yourself those things? We're always cheerleaders for others, but what about yourself? How often do you affirm that you are a good person, that deserves respect, that deserves the value and the work that you just like basically that you deserve, right? How often do you pour into yourself so where you know your self-worth and value? So some of the things that play into that besides unconditional love is the positive regards. Positive regards is acknowledging that you are doing your best. Sometimes we don't know if we're doing our best, right? Sometimes at the end of the day, we're just thinking, I don't know if I'm doing my best. Today was a day, it was a crappy day, it wasn't the best day. You don't know if you're doing your best. And sometimes you have to say, I did my best. You have to be your own cheerleader. You have to affirm yourself. You know, I didn't do as well as I did yesterday, but I did put my best foot forward. I was tired, I was exhausted, but I still gave my best. And my best today was 70%. Your best is not always 100%, and not beating yourself up for that. Knowing that you only had 70% and you gave that whole 70%. That is putting your best foot forward and giving yourself that positive regard. Not beating yourself up at night because you didn't do this, or you were late on this task, or you didn't remember to contact this person. Like, not beating yourself up is that positive regard. Another piece of building your self-worth is respect. Respecting yourself. And the respect always, to me, leads to boundaries. Do you respect yourself enough to set those boundaries? Do you respect yourself enough to hold on to boundaries that are healthy for you? Do you respect yourself enough to be able to say that, no, this is what I need, or yes, this is what I need? Because boundaries also means yes as well. Boundaries don't always mean no. I know I practice that a lot and I said that a lot, but boundaries don't always mean no. Boundaries also mean yes. Being able to say yes to things that are healthy for you. Being able to say no to things that are not healthy for you and sticking to it. That is respect. That's respecting your time. That's respecting your emotional well-being, and that's also respecting your mental well-being. If these things are not going to help you move along your journey in a healthy, positive way, then that's not respecting your time. Saying yes to things don't mean that that you're gonna be noticed more or not noticed more just because you say yes. You have to not only say yes to it, but you also have to know that it comes with a level of respect. So those are the three things I look at when we talk about self-worth and value. We look at unconditional love for yourself, positive self-regard, and self-respect. Combining those things together always leads to being able to practice self-care, because when you love yourself unconditionally, you are able to practice that self-care. You're able to say, I deserve this. I love myself enough to cut my work day down to 6 o'clock and leave when I'm supposed to leave at 6. You love yourself enough to eat something healthy even though you don't want to. You love yourself enough to take that time out, take that day off, take those PTO days. You love yourself enough to also give yourself grace. Grace is something that we don't always talk about. We give it to others, but we don't always give it to ourselves. So being able to give yourself grace and know that you are not perfect. Loving yourself without condition improves your self-worth and improves your chances of actually practicing self-care. Being able to love yourself without conditions. I love myself and, not I love myself, but I love myself and, I love myself and. That's an affirmation that I challenge everyone to start using. I love myself and I'm this and I'm that. Not but. Don't talk about the things that you have. Then don't talk about things that you're not proud of, because that's when you start putting conditions on there. I love myself, but I need to do so and so and so and so. Now you just like basically disregarded everything you said, and that's not a positive message. It's a negative message now. So I love myself, and that makes it unconditional. That makes it very unconditional. And then the positive self-regard, that's being able to know that you're doing your best. Not every day is going to be a stellar day. Not every day is going to be your best day. But long as you know you put your best foot forward. Like I may have a migraine or a headache or something like that. And again, I'm operating at 80%. I know that I'm going to give my whole day my 80% that I have. That I have, and I gave myself the 80%. I'm not going to beat myself up for the 20% I didn't have, because I had a migraine. So being able to acknowledge that you're doing your best, not as an excuse, but as a reason of, I am doing my best. I'm doing my best, and that's okay. My best is good enough. Not an excuse. We want to use excuse and have crutches. We want to be able to say, like, today was not the best day. That was not the best day, but I gave it my best. And then, of course, that last piece of respecting yourself. What does that look like? That looks like allowing others, holding others accountable for the way they treat you, not allowing others to treat you in ways that you don't want to be treated. Being able to say no to certain things, and being able to say yes to things that are healthy for you as well. The other piece that I look at is stop apologizing. Stop apologizing for mistakes that have been made in the past, or experiences that you deem as negative, that has hurt someone else, or that you've already tried to resolve and you haven't been able to resolve. When you keep thinking about all those things that you're carrying around, it becomes heavy, and it weighs on your self-worth and your self-value. You can't have a high self-worth if you're holding all this baggage and you're carrying all this baggage around. Being able to stop apologizing and start forgiving yourself and others. Self-worth has a lot to do with forgiveness. So does self-care. Self-care has a lot to do with forgiveness as well. Forgiving yourself. And if I have to say this, let me say it. Forgiving yourself for not being perfect. I shouldn't have to say that, but some people need to hear it. You're not perfect. You make mistakes. And if someone doesn't want to accept an apology, if someone doesn't want to accept the person who you are today, that is perfectly fine. But forgive yourself, so that your self-worth and value doesn't decrease based on someone else's perception of you. Again, we are not perfect, and if you try to be perfect, you'll never be able to have a high level of self-esteem, self-worth, and have that self-confidence, because you're trying to reach a goal that is unachievable, because no one is perfect. So forgiving yourself and allowing yourself to have that grace and that compassion. Compassion is important. It's something that we all need. And if you can give it to a coworker, a family member, a loved one, a friend, you can definitely extend that compassion to yourself. So those are all the points that I wanted to make about self-worth. I want to know, what is your self-worth and value? Like, how do you perceive yourself? What is your value? We like to use that term, I'm worth my weight in gold. But what does that really mean? What does that really mean when it comes down to actually putting it into action? I like the idea of we're talking about things, and we're talking about what we want to do. We make these lists, and we talk about things we want to get accomplished. And that list just stays there. It stays there on our phones, on our computers, on a to-do list, and it never gets done. Be actionary. Start putting these things into work. I love doing these Facebook Lives, but I also hope that people are actually putting these things into action. Be actionary. If there's not one thing you can do, is get the information and hold on to the information and not use it. That is not helpful. It's not getting you anywhere. It's not getting you to your self-care journey in a healthy way. You're getting all the knowledge, you're getting the education, you're getting the experience, you're getting the information, but if you don't use the information, it is pointless. So if we're talking about self-worth and value, if you're having some kind of trouble with your self-worth, or you're reevaluating your self-worth and value, do something about it. Don't just sit there and just contemplate it. Do something about it. Do something. Don't just sit there. I think that's my biggest message today, is like, do something. If you don't like the person you are today, start making changes today, not tomorrow, today, to be the person that you want to become. If you don't like the level of your self-worth and value right now, improve it. You have the power to improve it. No one else has control over that but you. It is how you view yourself. It is the value you place on yourself. Take control of your life. No one can do that but you. But you cannot do that by taking notes, writing stuff down, reading self-help books, going to therapy, doing all these other things. You're just doing it. But if you're not actually putting it into practice, then what's the point? You're just wasting time. You're gaining this knowledge. You're gaining all these tools, but you're not doing anything with it. If if you can't do just one thing, if you can do just one thing, just do one thing, and that is like at least do something good for yourself that's going to improve your self-worth and value. If you're gaining knowledge, you're doing all these positive things in your life, or you're collecting positive things in your life to do, actually put them to action, because nothing works if you don't put it into action. All right, so that is my Facebook Live for you guys tonight. It was short and sweet, because I want things to be actionary. Like, we need to put these things into action. Do something. If you're struggling, if you're sad, if you're unhappy, if you're confused, if you are isolating yourself, if you're having all of these symptoms or having all of these experiences, it is your job. It is your job to do something about it. And if that just means getting up and creating a morning meditation regimen, if that means that means practicing self-care a little bit more, doing one extra thing that goes out the way to show you that you love yourself, to show that you love yourself unconditionally, do it. Do it. Do not sit and be in misery all by yourself when you're the one who can get yourself out of it. Self-worth and self-value is important. And again, I understand that, like, a lot of times we get these messages that were preached to us throughout our lives that we are not worth anything. We don't have any value or worth. Or I've heard people say that they were told that they're a waste of space. And that is heartbreaking, and that is sad. And if you continue to allow those negative cognitions and those negative thoughts to run your life, that is what it's going to be. And you have so much power, and you have so much that you can give if you yourself start to value yourself, love yourself unconditionally, and know your self-worth and value, that you can change a lot of stuff around. No, your life is not going to be perfect, because perfection is not real. Your life is not going to be perfect, but it can be happy. Starting each day with a smile is all about that. It's all about, changing those negative cognitions, those negative interaction with people that loved us and hurt us. It's all about changing the story, because we all have stories that we want to change. We can't go back and do anything. We can't make them disappear, but we can change some of the impact that it's had on us. And we can do that just by starting by increasing our self-worth and value, just by starting to practice self-care, knowing our worth, practicing unconditional love, positive self-regard, and respecting ourselves. All right, so that is the end of my Facebook Live today. Thank you guys so much for joining me. I really appreciate it. If you want any more information about Start Each Day with a Smile, you can find it on mwilkinsonconsulting.org. Any other questions, let me know. But other than that, thank you guys so much for joining.